refiner in the world. And if they're restricting exports starting in 2026, where every single export will require individual government licenses, and in essence, they're giving Beijing full control over every ounce leaving the country, and classifying it as a resource of national interest, not just the United States, who calls it critical mineral. Yeah, this is a big deal. They've put a floor underneath the price of silver, period. And so I think it's a very, very big deal. Will they confiscate it? Look, I have a different view on that. You have JP Morgan, who paid the largest fine ever issued by the Justice Department at the time of a $920 million for spoofing the silver market. Now, a lot of people thought they would get RICO charged. They got off with a slap on the wrist. Their head trader, Michael Nowak, who I sat at a table with for lunch, is, I think, still in jail. But they're allowed to be the custodian still of the world's largest silver trust, SLV, along with BlackRock. So when you talk about, would it make sense to go door to door and knock on everyone's door and say, give us your silver, when the world is promoting gold and silver ownership to countries like India and China and Russia, China, who has state-sponsored gold and silver accumulation plans? If we were to do that, it's bad enough to confiscate Russian treasury bonds for whatever the reason that the U.S. government cited, which is in essence a default as the world reserve currency. It's another thing to activate eminent domain and take your own people's metal, and I think it's game over at that point. So instead, you have the world's largest silver trust or silver stockpile held by JP Morgan and BlackRock. They're also the primary custodians of GOD as well, where they could come in on a Friday night, take the metal, which, by the way, the prospectus does not allow you and I to possess it. Ironically, Saudi Arabia took a huge position in SLV and made a lot of people annoyed that it was in SLV. Yet, at that level, you can take possession. You have to have what's called a basket. It's a huge amount, but the custodian can limit or completely cut off redeemability as well, even to the authorized participants. But the bottom line is this: you create a vehicle that siphons all the silver into one vehicle held by JP Morgan and BlackRock, and you can, on a Friday night, they could take all of that, put it in your money market account. It's there Monday morning, and they look the world in the face and they say, what? We didn't do anything. That you can't take possession of it anyway. You can buy physical silver in the country. We just closed the fund. The prospectus gives us the right to do that. You're free to buy physical silver in this country. So if they cross that line, it's a line that you don't come back from, in my opinion. No one will ever trust us again, even their own.
That makes sense.
The own population of the United States.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Is there any reason, with silver being such an important metal, to the point where they classify it as a strategic resource, is there any reason why it has to be priced at less than gold?
No, I mean, you go back to biblical times, they were 1-to-1. Geologically, it's 7-to-1, meaning it used to be 16-to-1 for 5,000 years. And now the geological ratio, because silver is depleting, your skin is epidermal. Silver is found in nature, something called epidermis, and silver is called epithermal. It's right near the surface. So the big deposits were found long ago. It's disappearing, it's depleting. It used to be 16-to-1, it's now 7-to-1. Geologically, the ratio is 7 ounces of silver is mined for every 1 ounce of gold. And the interesting thing is, to your point, the organization, the branch of the U.S. government who wrote this critical minerals list is called the United States Geological Survey Commission. They're the ones who came out a year or two ago and said, in their estimation, silver could be one of, if not the first element struck from the periodic table of elements because it's depleting so fast. So to your point, from a standpoint of utility, of need, it's massively needed. There's nothing like it that conducts energy or light and heat the way that silver does. It's needed. Copper, people say, no, it's too slow. It doesn't work as well. It's needed. And to see it disappearing the way that it is, to see it be called critical, to see China say we're going to mitigate our exports, and when it's called critical, the U.S. can no longer export it if they decide to, if the president decides to. When you talk about it in relation to gold, yeah, I mean, it could very well close that gap. Could it go 1-to-1? Sure.
I mean, it used to be one to
Biblical
one.
times it was.
Yeah, it
Long
used.
time ago. But
Okay, but let me.
7-to-1, 10-to-1, yeah, absolutely.
Well, if it's being mined at 7-to-1 now. Now, how is gold? You said that silver is depleting. Is gold? It sounds like it's not depleting at the same amount. If it used to be 16-to-1, now it's 7-to-1. Where did they find gold? And could there be more gold than we realize, or have all the gold reserves been found compared to the silver?
Well, I think that's debatable. There are a lot of people that I respect a lot, like Big Swear, who would say that there's more gold out there than we know. But it wouldn't really be in the vested interest if it was the United States, for example, that held a lot more gold wherever. Bix talks about the Grand Canyon gold, and that's probably not going to come out anytime soon. But
Sure.
even still, if you took every ounce of gold on the planet, I don't even think there's 1 ounce for every person that's living. If you took the number of people living and the ounces of gold, it's a finite supply any way you look at it, and that's the allure. That's why it's been money. And one of the key characteristics of money is that it is a finite supply, that it is not something that can continue to expand forever at the whim of a politician. So any way you look at it,
But that
there
sounds like
is.
silver. So what I'm trying to say is the silver to gold ratio not necessarily accurate? And perhaps silver should be a 1-to-1
Yeah, it
already.
could very well be. I mean, who
Yeah,
knows
I'm
where these numbers come from? You're right. It could be. From a
well, because some
standpoint
of
of
this is just
utility,
arbitrary from a market position, standpoint. They held the price down, and it's just kind of like we do things because that's how we do things instead of what it really needs to be. And then once people realize what it really needs to be, then the market corrects pretty quickly, as long as it's not artificially held down.
yeah, and I like the way you think, and you're right. I mean, we have to trust the numbers that we're given. But one of the things that I focus a lot on is, the big money that's importing metal into the United States. We don't know who that big money is. We can assume, we can say maybe it's the Treasury, or who knows. We can see all this gold and silver flowing. We can talk about China going as the second largest producer in the world, buying all the doré and the concentrate from Mexico and Peru, paying double what the West will and shipping it back and refining it themselves. We know silver is important, but we look at the deliveries into COMEX. Now, here you're talking the most sophisticated Western traders on the planet. I mean, the most sophisticated traders in the world, and they're on Wall Street. And whoever the hell is bringing in all this silver, like a good example of it is the November contract. Now, November is not a delivery month for silver. The next delivery month is December. So far, just in the first 10 days or so of the November delivery month, which isn't a primary delivery month. You can take delivery, but it's not a delivery month from a contract standpoint. We've seen, last I looked, which was 2 days ago, 3,029 contracts were delivered as of a couple days ago at 5,000 ounces apiece. That's 15,145,000 ounces of silver. Who the hell is doing this every single month since November? We've been seeing this every single month since November. And we don't know
Since
who it
last
is.
November? Since it's
Yeah,
November?
that's when Trump won the election. But what it shows for the silver delivery volume, that it's massive in a non-delivery month. There is big money who isn't just big money. To your point, they have all the information, and information is key. They know where the ball is going, and whoever it is keeps bringing in billions of dollars worth of silver into the COMEX every month and taking possession or leaving some in the exchange in what's called a eligible account. Now, that it's not for delivery, it's being held in strong hands. But the amount of gold and silver coming into the country is unlike anything anyone has ever seen before in both metals. And I would argue these are the people who know the inside scoop. They don't do things at that level just for the hell of it. You're talking the biggest, most sophisticated money in the world who's closest to the information. They know where this is going.
Well, could there be more silver in our country that could be mined and we don't know? Why is it just certain countries and not the United States? Was it mined
I don't
thousands
even
of
think
years
we're,
ago?
I don't
Why
even,
don't we have it here?
well, we should, and I don't know what the reason is, but I can tell you I don't even think we're barely 10th on the list globally. The majority of it comes from Mexico and Peru. Um, Mining over the last, when you talk about suppressing price in dollars in particular, around the world, prices went much higher against other currencies than it has against the dollar long ago, because the dollar has been so strong as the reserve currency. But what I would say is, when you have silver being held down to stupid levels for such a long time, it really hurts the ability to explore. I mean, it's expensive to explore and to dig and to mine. You have the energy costs, the cost of labor, and just the cost of everything. It's a very labor and cost intensive industry. With silver not performing the way anyone thought it should, counterintuitively, that affected not only the major miners, but also the juniors and the exploration companies, who have been left for dead with no investment. And it's too expensive to do much in terms of meaningful mining. You contrast that with China. For years, they've been mining gold and silver, even if it was uneconomical, because they see the big picture. They think in terms of decades or longer, and we don't. And so, yeah, we're at a massive, I don't know, it's a problem. And you're seeing the Trump administration sign deals with some domestic mining companies to mine strategic elements on their behalf, and silver will benefit from that. But it's too bad that the ambition of maybe the military industrial complex, I would argue, to hold down the price has dramatically affected the ability for exploration and junior mining companies to look for silver.